Hello everybody, welcome to Austin Bucket. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already and drop a like on this video. I'm trying to hit 100,000 subscribers and we are a little less than 1.8k away from that mark, so your subscription would be much appreciated. Also drop a like to help the video do better in the YouTube algorithm because it would be nice for you to do that and I would appreciate that as well. Gonna talk about the final games of the NBA play-in today. There's the Chicago Bulls Heat game where the Heat won, and of course the Thunder versus Timberwolves game where the Timberwolves won. I'm going to talk about that game first. The Chicago Bulls are definitely obviously going to be a primary piece of discussion here, as you can tell from the title and thumbnail, but you know, I'm gonna save them for the end. So I also just wanted to get the OKC game out of the way because I don't have a ton to say about this one. You kind of knew the result of the game. Not really, but you got the vibe of it almost from the very onset, from the beginning in this game. It felt like the Timberwolves had pretty much full control here. OKC was really struggling offensively. Gilgeous-Alexander specifically was not hitting his shots whatsoever, and while that happened in the most recent game for the OKC Thunder, the other play-in game, they had Josh Giddey as well as Lou Dort to step up, and that allowed Shea to eventually come into his zone and all that. But rather than that happening, Josh Giddey shot terribly. I don't think Lou Dort did anything particularly special. And Shea never really came around after a rough start. He just ended up having a bad performance altogether. Didn't really save this one. And for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they played some fantastic defense. The addition of Rudy Gobert versus what they had last time made a very clear difference for their defense. Obviously, they played good defense in their game against the Los Angeles Lakers, but having Rudy there just really made things that extra bit difficult for an offense to penetrate. So yeah, gotta give them that. On the offensive end of things, Karl-Anthony Towns was phenomenal in this one. One of the best games that I have seen from him as a player, period. Unfortunately, things like this, I feel, should be far more common for Karl-Anthony Towns. But as I previously mentioned when I was talking about the Lakers Timberwolves game from earlier, I really feel as though Karl-Anthony Towns has historically been underutilized by the Timberwolves, either from a coaching perspective because of how his teammates treat him, or how he treats himself and chooses not to be that particularly aggressive, when I truly believe that Karl is a generational offensive talent and should be utilized as such, and yet is not. It was nice to see him utilized as such today because he was very much a focal point of this offense and he consistently absolutely crushed it. He finished the game with 28 points and 11 rebounds on 11 for 16 shooting, hitting a bunch of ridiculous shots, including an absurd like circus and one shot that I could not believe went in. On top of that, Nickeil Alexander-Walker had himself a good performance. Rudy Gobert, as previously mentioned, made his impact felt, finishing with 21 and 10. Anthony Edwards was much better than in the most recent game versus the Lakers. Still not great, but much better. Mike Conley was good. Kyle Anderson once again made his impact felt. Just a really good all-around game from this team. And as for OKC, yeah, they just didn't have it, man. It definitely was very clear the interior difference between these two. They have three players who finish with double-digit rebounds, with Rudy, Cat, and Ant having 10, 10, and 11 respectively. But on the other side for OKC, not a single player finishes with double-digit rebounds, and the difference rebounding-wise was actually 50 to 54, so never mind. My point is garbage. But you know, it felt like there was a big difference, and of course, that also manifested in a lot of easy play in the interior with Cat and Rudy Gobert basically getting almost all of their points in the paint and combining for over 50. So yeah, not over 50, exactly 49, but whatever. Let's move on to the Bulls Heat game. I didn't feel good about this one going into it as a Bulls fan. Not that I am particularly invested, because I'm pretty apathetic to the Bulls at this point, even though I did make that video towards the end of the season about how the Bulls had been better to close the year. By no means did I expect them to be some great team. I did expect them to win the play-in, but that ultimately did not end up happening. The thing is, like, I'm not saying I don't care is like a, you know, the crying behind the mask meme type thing. I just knew this was ultimately not going to go anywhere anyways. And like, even if they did win this game, it was going to be to have the pleasure to get absolutely smacked by the Milwaukee Bucks. So just to talk about this game first, before I just talk about some feelings on the Chicago Bulls, feelings I've given a million times, but hey, this was a pretty good game from DeMar DeRozan, a really great game from Alex Caruso, a fine game from Nikola Vucevic, and a fantastic game from Kobe White. And I do want to throw out there that Kobe White has become a pretty damn solid NBA player. Like, he hits his threes, he plays really good defense, he fills the gaps offensively, he can play make, he can drive decently, he can create his own shot a little bit. Like, he's definitely a bona fide, like, solid NBA player at this point. I don't think he's going to be a star, as some thought coming into his career, with him being drafted at, like, the 7th pick. But he's pretty great, and I do think he can be a consistently key rotation player for a handful of teams, or maybe just one team in the future, but probably not the Chicago Bulls, because hopefully they're blowing it up soon. But of course, the standout performance here for the Chicago Bulls was Zach LaVine, who finished with 15 points on 6 for 21 shooting, 0 for 6 from 3, 3 for 5 from the free throw line, with 5 turnovers with just 2 assists. An absolutely abysmal performance from Zach LaVine, but at the same time, I also understand that the Bulls would not have been in this game to begin with had Zach LaVine not had the crazy good game that he had against the Toronto Raptors the other day. So, you know, how mad can you be for him for playing bad in this game when his great performance is the only reason this game even existed to begin with? I'm not too mad at him personally, but I do understand that there's probably some people who are like, okay, this is your franchise player and he got outscored by Alex Caruso. That's not ideal by any means. For Miami, their offense, a huge part of it, of course, was Max Strus, a former Chicago Bull. Looks like the Winter Soldier. Hit 7 threes. He did most of his damage in the first half, but hit a very clutch 3 late in the game, because that's when you hit clutch shots. And kind of that was the shot that put him away. It already looked like it was going that way, and that 3 really felt like the end of it. Jimmy Butler, 31 points, got to the free throw line quite a bit. His efficiency could have been better on terms of his actual shots, but he got to the line to make up for it. A nothing game from Bam and Tyler Hero, really, but just Jimmy and Max Strus really carried that offense, and the Bulls offense could not produce whatsoever. As a whole, as a team, they finished with 91 points. And basically, to conclude what I'm talking about here with this video, blow this freaking team up. I am a Chicago Bulls fan. I have watched this team be built from start to finish. I've seen us go from the Jimmy Butler era to Zach LaVine and rebuilding, giving up on Lauri Markkanen, giving up on Wendell Carter, trying to be good with Zach now by trading for Nikola Vucevic, getting DeMar DeRozan in the offseason, getting Lonzo Ball, as I had been asking for years at that point. Being that really good team for a few months was seriously awesome, but we have spent more time with this team hoping to see them be back to that than them actually being that. Like, a significant amount of time more. This entire season and half of last season, the Bulls have spent more time with this core being bad to, at best, mediocre than actually being good. And I realize Lonzo Ball not being there is a huge part of this, but frankly, you can't really bank on him to return. So blow this team up. I'm tired of watching the mediocrity. I really can't handle it. It's really depressing to me that the reason we traded Jimmy Butler was to escape mediocrity, just to be right back in it, and ironically, losing to Jimmy Butler in the path to mediocrity. And not even mediocrity at this point, because mediocre at least means you make the playoffs, but no, they were the freaking 10th seed, and now they finish as the 9th seed. Please put an end to this. I don't want to see it anymore. Even if we don't have some of our draft picks in the future, at least I would feel like we're building towards something. But yeah, that's it. Goodbye.